Let's create some code that will find a distance between 2 points. So first of all, as a reminder, the distance is the square root of x minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. That's the distance formula. It's usually studied in basic algebra. So now let's take a look at this in C#. All right, so we need 4 coordinates. So I'm going to say for that reason double. I'm going to use that data type because the coordinates could be 2 or 2.58 or negative 3.8 and so on. So you want the decimal part, you want to be able to make them negative also. I'll call it x1, and for the sake of simplicity, call this 2, okay? x2, and then define a value, for example, like 3. y1, define a value like 4, and then y2, define a value like 5 for it. These are our coordinates. Create the distance formula. So we'll say double D, that's the data type, and we're going to use the square root function. So we're going to type in math. That's the math class, dot, and then sqrt. So within there is this method called square root. It is the square root of a specified number. And then it says double D, that's the argument. So ultimately it has to be a double that goes in. So we're going to make use of these coordinates as follows then. If you go by the formula, we need x2 minus x1 squared. But that's equivalent to just writing x2 minus x1 multiplied by x2 minus x1. It means the same thing mathematically. So we can use this in C# then. I'm going to say x2 minus x1, and I'm going to multiply by another x2 minus x1. And I'm going to add to it, remember the distance formula is just the Pythagorean theorem, that's all it is. And I'm going to do here next then y2 minus y1 times y2 minus y1, and then terminate this with a semicolon. So that's our expression going as the argument into the square root function. It gets saved over to D, and then I can just say console.writeLine, and then something like using string interpolation. So distance equals, instead of curly braces, punch D into the curly braces. All right, terminate this with a matching curly brace, and then terminate the whole line with a semicolon. And that's pretty much the code. Give it a go here. So start with the debugging, Control F5. So as you can see, the distance is 1.412 and so on. That's correct. What this really is for now is basically the square root of 2, right? Because you're doing 3 minus 2 on the x's, that's 1. 5 minus 4 is 1, so it's 1 squared plus 1 squared, which is like basically the root of 2. So terminate this. Please leave a like if it's been helpful.